One of the key spiritual questions of our time is a question that I suppose has run down the corridors of history, but it's an important question for us because it's the question of theodicy, the question of if there is indeed a good and gracious God, then how can there be such horrific evil and suffering in the world, and where is God in that plan? I do believe that the question is probably framed for us in our time partly by our constant desire to solve for X, our ability to eradicate any kinds of problems in our lives and to set up new machines or technologies that will make life easier, probably turns up the heat under this question for our generation. Because while everybody has worried about human suffering and has wondered where God is in certain dark moments in their lives, our generation is so able to meet problems head on and solve so many of them that this question seems both quaint and at the same time exciting because we can't seem to solve it. I do think that religion is primarily an adult search, and the difficulty with religion is unfortunately bred partly by my own discipline. My doctorate is in religious education. My area of interest is in how children and young people come to faith. But I do think that young people who are younger than college age tend to come up with tentative answers to these ultimate questions that are really the questions of adulthood. And unfortunately, especially in the Catholic Church's religious education system, sometimes they've been able to adopt quick and slick answers to those questions at the age of 6 or 10 or 12 and then freeze in time. And so we have an awful lot of Catholic Christians in the United States who have master's degrees and high-paying jobs and all sorts of responsibilities in their lives. They're adults in every way except with respect to their own theology, with respect to answering the big questions, and especially this burning question, if there is a good God, then why is there evil and suffering in the world? And I think that often their God is a kind of cosmic puppeteer who is supposed to rescue them from every kind of difficulty. And so the real theological rub of the question, where is God in human suffering, has to do with human freedom and with the recognition that we live in a world which is itself moving toward God, but is not completely redeemed at this point. It's certainly redeemed in Christ, but it's not been fulfilled. The Christians have always prayed, Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. And we live in that wrinkle in time between that which has already happened in Christ and that which is not yet fulfilled in our dream of the reign of God. And I suppose that's the Christian version of it, but you could find versions like that in almost any of the world's great religions, a version that lets us know we're not there yet. And in the face of not yet being there, we do experience all sorts of cosmic tragedies. And certainly we experience a lot of moral outrage over the behaviors of human beings who themselves are created free. I've often heard my students say, well, why did God allow Hitler to be Hitler? Well, I do think that that's an important question, but I think in some ways it's a question formed in childhood that has to be answered in adulthood, because if God doesn't allow Hitler to be Hitler, then God doesn't allow you to be you. And it seems to me human freedom is at the core of this question. What we do with this incredible freedom, autonomy, power that we have as human beings is either create a world that does reflect the reign of God, the world that Jesus dreamed of and imagined and died for, or we create the other kind of world, a world of chaos and a world of straining toward darkness rather than toward the light. We see evidence all the time in the evening news of strains in each direction. And the challenge, I think, is to recognize our own little piece of the turf as something that we can determine. It's our human freedom and how we use that can, in fact, change the karma, if you will, could change the milieu, the set of circumstances, the world situation, at least as we know it in our patch of the world. As for some of the human tragedies that befall us in earthquakes and floods and fires, it seems to me that those natural disasters have more to do with our hope for a world that isn't yet completely fulfilled than really with human freedom. But whether you speak about the moral abuses of human freedom or about the cosmic tragedies of natural disasters, in either case, we are the crown and glory of creation. We are the moment in the evolutionary story where we can stop and reflect on the world that is moving toward God. And we are that moment in creation that not only reflects, but strains toward the next moment and dreams of something more than that which we can see and experience right now.